From the Foundation Studio right here on Biloxi Back Bay, I want to welcome you to Super Talk Outdoors, where we celebrate every single Monday at lunchtime the world-class outdoors of the state of Mississippi. Because we are the capital of the outdoors in America. Mississippi is the capital. The star is right here when you look at a map of the United States. I want to thank you for joining us on the powerful SuperTalk Mississippi Radio Network or on SuperTalk TV at C-Spire TV. Or you might be watching us on YouTube or Facebook or listening on your favorite podcast. It's August the 7th, 2023. By the way, I always want to note this, that my views on this show are not those of the Foundation. They are mine. So but when it comes to the outdoors and outdoors issues, you can count on me to say what needs to be said. Excuse me. And I'm honored to be in this position. Hey, listen, I want to thank the outpouring of support that I got last week on the passing of my dear mother. I've heard from hundreds of people, friends and listeners, and I really sincerely appreciate it. You know who you are, and you know that I've answered every single note. Adam Butler and I last week talked about the roles that our mothers have played in our outdoors lives. Sometimes we overlook this. And, they support us. They trust us to roam. I loved hearing Adam's story talking about that. Certainly, my mother let me roam. And anyways, just all kinds of memories as it relates to what our mothers have done. But they helped us develop into good people, focus on doing the right thing. Our mothers are central to our lives. But anyway, I want to thank you for the thoughts and prayers. By the way, my grandson and I had the opportunity to go fishing in Back Bay, over here near my house, where the studio is located, and we caught a bull shark in Back Bay. It was an incredible fight. It jumped, and it was absolutely crazy. Thought we had a tarpon at first, but my 6-year-old made some memories that he's going to actually, obviously carry with him for a lifetime. And that is what life is about, my friends. It's about spending those time with kids in the outdoors. Hey, listen, speaking of legacy, at the core of Mississippi's wildlife efforts, the conservation efforts that have made us the capital of the outdoors, is what is called the North American Wildlife Model. I talked about it before. It's that framework that was developed by Aldo Leopold. And it's been truly instrumental in preserving and managing the wildlife populations in the state. And it's also about talking about legacy, ensuring that there's sustainability for future generations. That's the legacy work that we do as outdoorsmen and women. I talk a lot on this show about those conservation efforts, and I'm obviously, if I continue to talk about it, I continue to hear that work's going on behind the scenes to make the sale and transfer of white-tailed deer legal in the state. And while it may be tempting to some, I just want to say we better be careful as we consider the potential consequences of our actions. If you think about the white-tailed deer population in the state, it's really precious. It's a precious resource. And we got it to this point because we've had a lot of integrity in our wildlife management practices, and that's where the North American Wildlife Model comes into play, maintaining healthy, sustaining populations through sort of the natural processes rather than artificial manipulation. So if we were to legalize the sale and transfer of white-tailed deer in Mississippi, we'd be risking introducing things like CWD. We'd be disrupting the natural genetic diversity that exists in the state. Each part of the state has something very unique about it. We'd be compromising the delicate balance that has made Mississippi a haven for outdoorsmen and outdoor enthusiasts. Our state's reputation as the capital of the outdoors literally was built on the principles of responsible conservation and stewardship. So let's not forget the countless hours that the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks have put into this. You think about the conservation organizations that have been focused on our conservation efforts. You think about passionate hunters and the role that they've played in helping to make sure we have long-term health and vitality of our deer population. It is our duty to protect and preserve that legacy for future generations. So instead of pursuing short-term goals like some are, let's refocus our efforts on strengthening our existing conservation efforts. Let's continue to support habitat restoration and responsible hunting practices and education programs that instill a deep appreciation for our natural resources. All these things are important to us. We're guardians of our natural treasures, of this natural treasure in Mississippi, and we can't do enough to protect it. Let me put it that way. So let's stay focused. Let's not let a few deer breeders change the course of history for the rest of us. I've got salt water in my veins and Delta dust in my eyes. And speaking of the Delta dust, I want to give a shout out to those Mississippi farmers that are out there enduring the heat to get their crops out, man. They're working really hard, including my hunting friends, the Dunn family up in the Delta. They're working hard as we speak, harvesting their crops, man. That's happening all across Mississippi as we speak. And my hunting friend and fishing buddy, Mark Creech, a.k.a. MacGyver, is actually up there helping them. So my message to all of you guys is stay cool. Stay cool the best you can. So now let's shift gears in this old truck and say good afternoon to my friend Lake Pickle. I'm so thrilled to have Lake back on the show. How you doing, Lake?
Man, I'm doing fantastic. I unlike those Delta farmers, am sitting inside in air conditioning right now. So I think about them and think about those guys that are out there working, because I know how hot it is. You and I both do.
Yeah, they sent some videos. Just for the corn, it looks like Travis and his family are going to be working 17 straight days. And that's assuming that we don't have any weather affecting it. But so far, the weather's been really good. But boy, the videos they send, you can tell it is hot as heck.
Yeah. So I and myself and Jordan Blissett and some other guys that I work with, we were on a property in the Delta just last Friday. And we were in some moist soil impoundments, and we were trying to pull the boards from the control structures to get the water off. And the breaks that I was having to take started getting more and more frequent, because I'm like, I'm about to have a heat stroke, because I'm standing out there in my waders. They weren't insulated, but there's no wind that gets through there. It was painful. It was
so you're still doing work with the Primos team. You are selling real estate for whitetail properties in Mississippi. You're working for Onyx, and I don't know how you do it all. You just got back from a trip from Africa. You also did a red fishing trip recently. Man, you've been a busy dude.
It's been a busy summer, man. It's been a busy summer, but it's been a fun summer. And summer's been fun because I've been able to hang out with my wife a little bit more, when I'm doing the Onyx stuff and the Primos stuff. A lot of times I have to do that, with those guys. But Africa, she got to tag along with that, and I've never seen her enjoy a hunting trip as much as she enjoyed that one. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people who'd done the Africa trip, some on this show, and it's a journey just to get there, isn't it?
Man, yeah. I think it was 2 days of travel, but absolutely worth it. Like, I mean, they could have tripled the travel time, and if I would have known that was the end goal, I still would have done it. It was fantastic.
It's fun to make memories like that. I think one of the reasons why, speaking of the fishing you did recently, I think it was down in South Louisiana, but we here in coastal Mississippi, we know those grounds well. We can get to a lot of the grounds where you were fishing from here, and we've got the Louisiana Marsh and Cat Island and the Barrier Islands and the backwaters of coastal Mississippi. Man, when that bite is on, it's awesome, isn't it?
My gosh. Yeah. Getting into those specks and those big bull reds, and the fun, I like catching big bull reds any way that I can. But when you're fishing on light tackle, expecting to catch speckled trout, and you set a hook and all of a sudden it starts running. Oh my gosh, it's fun. It's so fun.
There's nothing like it. In fact, I was chatting with texting this morning with Lake. And while I was texting him, I looked out over Back Bay and along the marsh edge. There was a big redfish tailing through there, and I got a quick video of it and sent it to Lake. And I thought to myself, I shouldn't be texting Lake. I should actually be in the boat right now. It's been hot though, man. It's been hot on the coast. I mean, extremely hot. Yesterday, it was strange because it was extremely windy in the afternoon. And extremely hot. I mean, wind indexes in the 115 range. And it felt like it kind of felt like Phoenix or Las Vegas, when it felt. I know there's a lot of humidity in the air, but it felt like dry heat. It was so hot. But this is an unusual weather situation we find ourselves in, isn't it?
It's been rough. It's been like I find myself wanting to jump in, regardless of the sharks that we were dealing with, trying to get those specks to the boat. I was like, if it gets any hotter, I'm gonna jump in. It's just so hot.
Hey, listen, when we come back on the other side, we'll continue our conversation with my friend Lake Pickle and just take the conversation wherever it takes us. We'll see you after this break.
Sweet soul for him. I said 3 Mississippi to this land called home. I'll breathe Mississippi till I'm dead and gone. Just carry on. I'll carry on. Mississippi.
Leading the conversation on Mississippi's outdoors. It's Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi.
Mississippi.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors as we listen to my friend Steve Azar, One Mississippi, the theme song for Super Talk Outdoors and the new state song for Mississippi. And incidentally, I noticed he posted the other day, he has a new children's book out. He worked with a wonderful illustrator and got this wonderful children's book called One Mississippi. And I've seen bits and pieces of it, but it looks like it's going to be terrific. I can't wait to see it in person. It's congratulations to Steve for still representing the state so wonderfully. I have my friend Lake Pickle. I actually said at the beginning of the show, Whitetail Properties. He actually used to be with them, but he's with Open Season Properties today. And Onyx, people who hunt a lot, they'll know what Onyx is. And then he's got a long history with the Primos team and working with Will and Jimmy and Brad and that group. If you watch their TV show, you know how well they represent Mississippi to the world, really. I mean, they represent Mississippi to the world. Anyway, welcome back, my friend. So what do you do this time of year, buddy, as you start thinking about the work you've got to do to prepare for hunting season?
This time of year, it's more or less trying to make sure I'm going through pretty much a regimen of trying to make sure I've got everything together, trying to ramp up because summertime, we get just enough time for us to get slacked off just a little bit where you can get used to not having to go all the time. But then I know the second August, September gets here, it's going to be go until the end of January and then a little break in February, then right into turkey season. But it's a lot of preparation, and like I said, everything related to what I do starts ramping up with hunting season. So it's just kind of just getting myself prepared and knowing what's coming.
Yeah, this is an interesting time for us because we're beginning to think about. We got a couple of new food plots we want to create at one of the farms that we lease, and we've got we'll probably do a little bit of a dove hunting. That's always kind of a fun part of the year. And my buddy Terry and Jake and Travis are beginning to really do some work thinking about getting ready for duck season. And it's going to be hot, man. I mean, I'm hoping it cools down a little bit because I don't know. Some of the work we need to do is tough, man. It's just deep in the woods and it's tough.
It's tough. And then when I start thinking about dove season and how hot it's going to be, of course, because a lot of things. That's one thing that's very dear to me is gun dogs and hunting dogs. So I always tell my friends this year, especially, if you are going to hunt your dog during dove season, please monitor him, bring your water, find a shade tree, because it's dangerous as hot as it is, especially for those dogs.
No doubt about it. Hey, listen, man, you heard what I said at the beginning of the show about the importance of the North American wildlife model to Mississippi. You travel all over the United States. Mm-hmm. Do you hear people talking about chronic wasting disease a lot as you travel around?
Chronic wasting disease is without a doubt that sits number one on the highest concern everywhere that I go. Everywhere that I go, even states that aren't really maybe dealing with it as heavily as we are, or Wisconsin is, or you can list off several, but it sits so high on the concern list. And I've talked to several biologists, and the thing that scares me is there's really, I don't know of a good end to this story if we don't try to do something.
Yeah, containment. Unfortunately, is the only tool we have right now. That's why, creating CWD zones and testing and all these things are critical. But I had someone on my show, I had more than one person on my show say that it's the single biggest threat to deer hunting in the United States. And we better take it seriously. That's why when the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks Commission, when they changed CWD management policy or plan 3 separate times without any discussion, without any public comment, it just concerns me that they're not taking it as serious as they need to.
Yeah, see, there's a thing that seems to be lost in all that to me. And like, because you were talking about all these decisions been made without public comment. Wildlife is for the public. It's not privately owned. We've seen what happens when wildlife can be privately owned, and it's not a pretty picture. That is the public's. That the land is the public, the wildlife is the public's. The public deserves to be able to comment on that.
Yeah.
Answer butts.
Yeah, it's a problem. I think us talking about it more, and you're beginning to hear more people talk about it. Some people, even some on the commission, want to minimize CWD and say that it's going to be survival of the fittest, and sort of buying into that argument. And I haven't found a scientist yet that is reputable that's not deeply, deeply concerned about it. And we have to rely on that. We have to rely on our biologists and our scientists across this nation to continue to share best practices and share learnings with one another, so that we can, have the best thinking as it relates to this at this point. But man, it's a long duration type of disease, and it's not looking good, frankly.
No, it's not. And one of the things that can be so frustrating is humans ourselves. We have a habit of wanting to trust the science until we don't like what the science says.
Yeah.
And the science points to this is a big problem, and it's only growing. And we have to. I mean, we have no choice but to pay attention to it if we want to have some sort of positive outcome.
What you described is exactly what happened in other states, especially states like Texas, where they sort of gave in to sort of the wealthy landowners and high fence operations. And, they've had Supreme Court cases. I mean, it's a mess in Texas. But, man, it's hard to run from the science.
Man, Kansas is dealing with all sorts of issues right now. They're actually trying to ban baiting statewide, and which is obviously causing all sorts of controversy because that's become a very popular method to hunt. But what's interesting, talking about going back to what you're talking about with the sale and transfer of deer, what we're dealing with here, and that being tied back to high fences and pens. The first ever case documented in Kansas happened in a pen. It was an elk in 2001.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. And then more recently in Texas, 2 counties in Texas that had never had a reported case before now have CWD, and both of those cases were inside high fences. In fairness to the high fence operation, 125 high fences in Mississippi, roughly. Mm-hmm. Not all of them are maintained and contained the way they need to be maintained and contained, but only around 5 breeders in this state. So I'm not speaking, most high fence guys just want to be able to do it for management purposes and whatever. But for those who are high fence breeders, there's not been any reported case related to them. But the reality is, once you start transferring deer in and out and moving them around the state, it's inevitable that disease will follow, and that's just something we got to pay attention to. So anyway, yeah, life goes on. It's an ongoing conversation around the country and in this state, and we'll stay focused on it for sure. Hey, so if you look back, what's the funnest trip you've been on inside, say, in Mississippi recently?
In Mississippi recently, honestly, it was despite the heat. This property that Jordan and I and Austin and Hunter that all 3 of them work at open season as well. We've all been spending some time on that property, getting it ready for duck hunting, for deer hunting, and it's kind of a blank canvas, so to speak. And so the hunting part of it is obviously going to be awesome, but just being out there and working on it and seeing the potential there, I love that.
I do too. I had a farm. We gave it up last year because we have another farm that's now way, way better. But I loved that farm, man. For 6 years, we went in, and the guy who owned it gave me carte blanche. I could go do whatever improvements I wanted to make. I didn't need to check with him, and putting in roads and putting in food plots and walking every, it's 1,000 acres, walking every inch of that place. to me that was fun. And then running cameras and trying to understand the population of the deer there. And we had a little bit of duck hunting there, but not great, but a little bit. But just the adventure, that's fun, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's such a payoff, especially when you're working on it. I mean, Jordan's sweating on a tractor on that place as we speak right now. So I mean, it's an ongoing process, but it's going to be fun to see the end result.
So in this case, you're going into a piece of property that the owner is getting you to make some improvements on, and then you guys have listed it, and the goal would be to sort of make it have pay dirt from a wildlife point of view, from a hunting and enjoyment point of view, and then sell it.
Absolutely, that's the goal.
Well, that's cool. So how often do you get these opportunities to kind of have a blank, slate of, opportunity there?
They come up. Opportunities to do that come up fairly regularly, but opportunities like this one, where it's in a spot where it's in the Delta, where there is so much, potential for moist soil and moist soil vegetation and controlled flooding and being able to get ducks in and some really good deer. Like this one's special. It's very special.
Yeah, you know it too, don't you?
Oh, yeah, I do. You know the Delta. You know it's special.
I do, and the more love you give it, the more love it gives you back. I mean, that's kind of the interesting thing. But what's one of the interesting things, and my friends from the Delta will know this well. Really, this is true just about anywhere in Mississippi, for that matter. But what's interesting is what a property looks like this time of year and what it looks like in the heat of the season. It's like the difference between daylight and dark, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's planting a crop essentially. It's putting a seed in the ground and not seeing the fruit yet, but knowing that it's coming. That's what. Yeah,
that's a great way to say it. Hey, listen, man, we got to get you back on the show more often.
Yeah, anytime. I always enjoy coming on here.
You bet. This has been my friend Lake Pickle. You know him from Primos, Truth About Hunting, and he's in the real estate business now. He works with Onyx. And he's a good friend to Super Talk Outdoors. Hey, when we come back, we'll continue the conversation. In fact, we're going to talk about the upcoming dove season. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. Look, I've got to get Lake Pickle back on the show more often. As I said so many times, when you think about people like Lake and Jimmy Primos and Brad Ferris and Will Primos, and our buddy Cuz Strickland over at Mossy Oak and the Mossy Oak guys, they're doing such a great job of presenting themselves to the rest of the world. They're literally outdoor ambassadors for the state of Mississippi. And, specifically the Primos Truth About Hunting TV series. And you can get access to it by going to the Primos YouTube page and watch back shows. But gosh, they do a great job of presenting what's so awesome about Mississippi, whether it's duck hunting or deer hunting or turkey hunting or just whatever. It's just great. And I enjoy Lake because he's a young man who's traveled a lot and really has a deep appreciation for what it takes to maintain sort of the conservation ethic that is Mississippi. Awesome conversation. Now we're going to shift gears and move over to my friend Major Chris Reed. He's coming to us from his truck at the Turcotte Shooting Range facility. And we're going to, among other things, we're going to talk about the upcoming dove season. But more than anything, we're just going to catch up with Chris. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm out at Turcotte, our Central Region office, out by the reservoir, here in the central part of Mississippi.
We're lucky in this state that we've got some of the best shooting facilities in the South here. We have done a great job of investing in those facilities, haven't we?
We have. The agency, they went all in a few years back and just added another sporting clay trail down in South Mississippi at McHenry. And our office being out here at Turcotte, we always have folks coming out to shoot. And this time of year, the activity picks up with people sighting in rifles and trying to get some shooting in on some clay targets before dove season starts. You can tell when you walk out to the vehicle that it's getting close, kind of by shotgun blast.
Well, Chris, it'd kind of be interesting to hear your point of view about this because we're going to get into dove hunting here shortly. But you think about this dome of high pressure that's sitting over Mississippi, really so much of the United States as we speak. It's unbelievably hot, man. Can you imagine if that doesn't lift at the beginning of dove season? It's going to be. I mean, it's usually hot, but it's going to be unmanageable.
There'll be coolers full of beverages, personal choice, I guess. They're trying to stay cool and stay hydrated. But yeah, hopefully, man, it's like an oven outside right now.
My friend, the Travis Dunn, who I hunt with up in the Mississippi Delta, at least some farms from him, they planted some sunflower seeds, and they've come up really nicely. Mm-hmm. But they're lucky they got them in, because I'd hate to be thinking about trying to figure out, unless you got irrigation, trying to get a dove field going right now. It'd be really difficult.
No, it would lead to some probably folks doing last minute efforts, which may not be legal, so they can have a successful dove hunt. I was talking to somebody the other day that was trying to manage the weeds got out from under them, I guess, in their dove field, and they got a bunch of tea weed coming up. And so talking around to others, they said, man, that's a really good crop for doves. They love it. And so it may not be just right at all. If you're out there trying to do last minute prep stuff, you may have some weeds that makes your field look a little unsightly, but it may actually serve
you see, you never know. Sometimes natural is definitely the way to go. You and I talked about this last year leading up to dove season. But this notion of doing the minimum to make it look like you're planting a field in order to get some seeds on the field and trying to look legal, there's no way to really do that, is there?
No, and we have ways to look for to kind of tell if it's in the rules or within the rules. Nothing's really changed in the past X amount of years as far as regulations go from the feds or in the state. But you hear it a lot more common now that folks are they're a little more nervous about going dove hunting because they don't want to get caught on a field that may be baited. They don't know what to look for, and you've seen, I guess, a little hesitation with folks going hunting, and that's not necessarily what we want at all. We want people to go and enjoy themselves, but a few bad apples, that old saying goes, can spoil it for the whole bunch.
Yeah, and it's you only have so many officers. What's the typical approach to checking dove fields when you get your officers out there?
Now, I can't give you all the secrets in our bag of tricks. Aware of that, but we're out there looking to make sure that people are compliant with having a hunting license, having a shotgun that can hold no more than 3 shells. Steel shot is not required for dove hunting. Bird shot is still good to go there. And then we are checking bag limits, checking to make sure people aren't shooting and harvesting more doves than is legal. And a bag limit is a daily bag limit. So, if you go out and harvest 15 birds in the morning, that doesn't mean you can go out and harvest 15 more that afternoon. And so a lot of people kind of get that sometimes.
So Chris, as you think about the season, is there any relationship between the heat that we're experiencing and potentially a declining season, or you expect they're used to the hot weather and we're going to deal with it the best we can? And dove hunting, if you've got doves, are going to be just as good as normal. What's the thinking on that?
I'm not. I don't know the expert opinion or biology behind doves and what affects them or what doesn't necessarily. I think that I remember it being hot in the past working dove hunting. I remember that too. I know that generally speaking, the hotter it seems to be is not as bad as people, maybe unpleasant. But what people don't want to happen, and we hear it all the time, is you have a cool front coming through, or you get a hurricane, or you get some weather, and the doves move. They leave the premises because they are migratory, and so any change in weather like that will send them south. And all that preparation, you go out there and you're looking at vacant skies, even though the temperatures may be a little cooler. Shade tree, hopefully, have a bunch of birds flying in. But I think birds most dove hunters.
So have you always had to work on the opening of dove season? Do you ever actually get to go dove hunting yourself?
We not much as far as getting to go hunting, because we'll be running around here and there. At times, you can slip away and go visit family, friends, and get in on a hunt in the afternoon, or maybe not opening day, maybe the second or third day of the season.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Hey, I'm curious. What do you typically do this time of year to give people a sense of what it is you're responsible for?
Well, I don't know that anybody really what I do in the office every day, but the guys and the gals in the field right now, central part of the state around the reservoir, the metro area, we are really busy running around dealing with alligators. Nuisance alligator calls come in a good bit this time of year. I talked to the news back at the beginning of summer about that alligator that went across Highway 80 in Jackson or Pearl. So we're running around doing that kind of stuff. We're starting to get into the swing of checking for dove fields and making sure those are legal and not baited. Checking camps and starting to get all that stuff going. The boating season slows down after July 4th. It trends that way, and then everybody starts going back to school, and the weekends turn into football and hunting, and the boats kind of get put up. So we're doing that, kind of having meetings in August. We got alligator season coming up also at the end of the month. So it's hard to imagine. It seems that way every year that, we're back talking about hunting.
Well, listen, we're talking with Major Chris Reed. He's been someone that we enjoy visiting with. He has serious responsibilities in the central region for the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, and with dove season right around the corner. It's that time of year when people starting to get in that mode. And as I was talking to Lake about a few minutes ago, when you compare this time of year to sort of the heat actually the cold really of the hunting season, the difference in the seasons are so dramatically different. But we kind of kick it off with as he pointed out just now, Chris pointed out, football season starting. You get to do some dove hunting. You start to get in that mode, start to enjoy being at the hunting camp. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Chris Reed. We'll see you after this.
Mississippi to this land called home. I'll breathe Mississippi till I'm dead and gone. Just carry on. I'll carry on. Mississippi.
We live in one of the best places in America to enjoy the outdoors. So let's talk about it. It's Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. I have my friend Major Chris Reed with us. He's got central region responsibilities for the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks around law enforcement and some other things as well. Chris, it's interesting. When I think about you, I think about past conversations that you and I have had around the work that you did in the fitness competition arena. And I was surprised, man, you hung in there for a lot of years. Are you still doing that?
No, I have been put out to pasture today and let some of the younger cats get involved in some of that stuff. But the success had no bearing on me participating or not. We just got through winning the competition again this summer, and those guys have carried the torch, and there's still a few of the old horses around there that give the other competitors a little uneasy feeling when they see them step off the bus, if you will. Not that we ride it to them.
What is it that keeps giving Mississippi this competitive advantage?
I don't know. I think it's just kind of how our culture is. You know, we're gritty, we're tough. We have a culture of just putting work in, and whether it be in high school sports, college athletics, the police and law enforcement, firefighters, first responders, military across the state. You know, we're just we like doing it, and you know, tough situations don't seem to bother us. It seems to help us to show out and shine more.
Well, Chris, you used to have some responsibilities around training, and today you obviously have responsibility for those who are trained. But the world of a law enforcement officer for the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks is really different than it was, say, 10 years ago. There's been a lot of evolution of that job, hasn't there?
Yeah, there's a trend. America well, we're trying to keep up with the trends, and we're providing officers with good equipment. We are training. We go for 24 weeks of training when you combine it with the State Academy, along with our Wildlife Academy, where we hone in on skills that are specific to being a game warden. You know, we take it very seriously because, you know, you think about it, you're in a town, if you will, and most people have seen folks pulled over on the side of the road, or they've seen instances where somebody's getting arrested and locked up. There's usually 2 or 3 vehicles there, 2 or 3 officers there. Most of the time when we deal with folks, we're out in the middle of nowhere, and we're our only backup at times, and anybody that's coming to assist us when a situation kind of turns south, you know, maybe 20, 30 minutes away. So, you know, that's a real sticky situation to get into when you get into one, knowing that the only person to rely on. And so we try to give intense training. We want it to be retained, and that's why we do it, because at the end of the day, we want everybody to go home at the
Yeah, I know that 90% of the people, 99.9% of the people you come in contact with want to do the right thing, and they're fine to work with out in the middle of nowhere. But every now and then you're gonna face that one that's a little bit difficult. You know, I think what's interesting is that you've seen a rise in the number of reality TV shows and even docu-series on TV that have really brought a lot more focus on what you guys do. And you know, the thing that, you know, we've talked about it on this show before, but the thing that's really come to fruition over the past few years is the amount of training that you guys get to sort of take control of the situation, de-escalate a situation. Boy, there's a lot of psychology that goes into your work these days, isn't there?
Yeah, and unfortunately, you not being realistic and honest to say that when you're dealing with somebody, in the back of your mind, what you see on TV, and you know people are recording, we're trying to do this, and you're trying to think, well, is this person going to make up something after the fact? That doesn't change how we handle anything. We're going to handle it professional and by the book. But you know, those things that creep into people's heads. I mean, we're all human, just like the other guy. And
yeah.
So, you know, I would hate when we ask people to do something, we're not just doing it because, like, you know, I tell folks all the time, buddies of mine that aren't in law enforcement, if you're checked by a law enforcement officer, it's enough, because when you don't, then we're trained to go through our mind and say, well, why is this person being non-compliant? What are they trying to hide? And so we don't know. These people think we're supposed to know everyone, and we got a vendetta out against them, or a quota, which, you know, one of those fables that don't actually exist. We don't have a limit of tickets that we can write. We can write as many tickets as we need to in a month. But so yeah, we try to keep up with that.
And Chris, what I have found is that the best way to handle it is just be kind, be lawful, and follow the law. Don't have anything to fear, and tell these law enforcement officers, these game wardens, that you appreciate them. Anyway, this has been Major Chris Reed. It's been great to catch up with you. Thanks for hanging in there with us, as his mobile signal has not been so great, but we've been able to have a good conversation. Have a great week, and stay safe in the outdoors, and we'll see you next week.